Barry Switzer was known for bringing the wishbone to Oklahoma and perfecting it, but he's also known for having some of the best defenses that college football has ever seen. I'm going to touch on that today, but first, let's get a speech by the coach himself.
Big Eight Conference. For the last 14 years, we win today. We'll have won 11 Big Eight Conference championships. Everybody reading the Southwest Conference, they talk about Texas in the last 10, 12 years has won 2 Southwest Conference. Houston 3. A&M finally won them 1 in 18 years. People don't know what it is to be champions. Oklahoma invented it.
You dadgone right, Coach. Oklahoma invented it. Well, welcome to this episode of Sooner Legends Podcast. I'm your host, Mike the Legend. And if you don't mind, if you're new to the channel, jump down and hit your red subscriber button and turn on your post notification bells. That way you won't miss any historical OU or OU in the now content that I'm uploading. And could you please give me a like and also jump down in the comments and chop it up with me. It helps push the algorithm of YouTube and it helps small content creators like myself uh, get known in the YouTube community. And also, could you please share the video with your friends? Because as we always say, sharing is caring. Well, today's video comes by request from one of my faithful subscribers, Mars Jam, and he was wanting me to do a video about Barry Switzer's defense. So, as I always tell everybody, you request, the legend delivers. So, like I stated at the first of the video, Barry Switzer will forever be remembered as bringing the wishbone to Oklahoma in 1970 and perfecting it. But he is also known for having some legendary defenses and players that played on said defense. So Barry Switzer takes over for he becomes the next head coach for Oklahoma after Chuck Fairbanks accepts the job for the New England Patriots in the spring of 73. I think it was April. We got put on probation uh in 73. They still put us on they still allowed us on TV twice, which was Texas and Nebraska, but we were banned from bowl play at the end of the season. And then 74, 75, we was banned from TV and bowl play at the end of the season. So anyway, I kind of went back and just rehashed how many points per game opponents was averaging on us, some key players. Well, in 1973, Coach Switzer's first year, the average points per game of that 73 season was 12.9, and we were the Big Eight champions. Now, there were some key players on that defense also. You had all three of the Selmon brothers, Lucius, Leroy, and Dewey. You had All American Rod Shoat, Randy Hughes. Uh, let's see. I know. I can't remember that cornerback's name. Damn good one. And Jimbo Elrod. Uh, I think Bill Dalkey was on that team too. But anyway, that 73 season, like I said, we held opponents to 12.9 points per game average. We tied USC that season. I have always felt this way, and I will always feel this way until I draw my last breath and ride the Sooner Schooner to heaven. That had not OU tied USC, and they just happened to have beaten USC in that 73 season with the defense that we had, you would have seen the first three-peat national champion in NCAA. I feel strongly about that, and until somebody can prove me wrong, and nobody has yet, and I've talked with some big-time football fans from other fan bases, and they have yet to prove me wrong. So we get through the 74 season, or 73. 74 rolls around. That's when our TV ban started. Get this, folks. In that whole season, which we went undefeated and was named the national champions for the API because the UPI and the coaches poll and all that, because we were on probation, we was banned from that also. The total points scored against us, average per game, 8.36. Yes, sir, and ma'am. I tell everybody out of different fan bases this all the time. Give me your three best defensive linemen. Four. I'll just go ahead and jump in there to four. Give me your four best defensive linemen that played at your school in 73, 74, and 75. And I will trump you with the Selmon Brothers and Jimbo Elrod. There was not a defensive line like that in college football. There again, you can try to prove me wrong on that. Mm-mm. Not today, son. Mm-mm. In that 73, 74, 70, especially 73, 74, which we did win the national championship in 75, but I'm getting to that in a second. But there wasn't no interior defensive lineman that played at any college in those years that I specified that could top what Leroy, Dewey, Lucius, and Jimbo Elrod did on that defensive line. None of them. I got you trumped every time. I can just mention the Selmon brothers and trump you. They were good. But anyway, that 74 season, we helped them. We helped our team, the teams that played us. They averaged 8.36 points per game, and we won the API national championship that year. Now, a little tidbit about that. My favorite linebacker from that period was Rod Choate from Spiro, Oklahoma, three-time All-American linebacker. I seen Brian Bosworth put a tweet out, or a comment on a friend of mine who put a picture of Rod Choate up there. Even Brian knows Rod Choate. He brought that speed to the linebacker position for Oklahoma. And let me tell you something. Try taking him on in the open field and see what happens. He would crack your damn skull. Rod was a beast. Randy Hughes was a beast in the secondary. Zach Henderson, the first freshman to ever play under Bobby Proctor, who was our secondary coach. Scott Hill, who took out Tony Dorsett in the 1975 game against Pittsburgh. And I could go on and on and on. But that 73, 74, 75 defense, you wasn't doing crap. The only team that can claim anything was Kansas, which they beat us in 75, 23-3. But that defense we had in the 73, 74, 75 season, that was PlayStation. They was doing PlayStation numbers back in the 70s with that defense we had. I mean, it was ungodly. So 74 we win the national championship, and 75 we lost the nucleus of our defense that made up that 73 74 team. We still had the Selmons, we still had Jimbo Elrod, we still had Bill Dalkey, we still had Scott Hill, Zach Henderson, and I think we still had Randy Hughes might have graduated that year. Marjorie will tell me. She's my she's my go-to for stuff like this. But anyway, in 75, the average points scored against us that season was 13.4. And we were the Big Eight conference champions and the national champions, which we defeated Michigan 14-6. Now, when I did this average, I didn't put in the bowl game, which I couldn't in 73 and 74 anyway. But I just did for the season, 11 game average. And so I didn't throw the bowl games in there. But that that was the last year of the Selmons and Jimbo Elrod, and that season, uh, the Leroy, Dewey, and Jimbo were consensus All Americans, and Leroy was the Outland Trophy winner that year. And I guarantee you, I've heard Tom Osborne talk about the Selmons, greatest players that ever, defensive players that ever played interior line at the university, bar none. Yeah, I'm saying the Selmons again. They were just that good. I can't help it. I mean, when the Selmons played at OU, Barry Switzer's record was 54-1-1 when the Selmons was on the field. Now, I digress. You can take that for what it's worth, but that's on record, brother. So, 76 rolls around. We lost the Selmons. We lost Jimbo Elrod. But that's when you started seeing guys like Daryl Hunt, George Cumby, Reggie Kinlaw, Bud Hebert. Those guys, 76, we lost 2 games to Colorado and Oklahoma State, of all people. But in 76, we were Big Eight co-champions, and the average points scored on us was 16.8. You can tell a big jump from when the set. That's what I'm saying. You think the Selmons didn't have an impact when they was on the field playing? I mean, teams went from averaging 12.9 points a game per game against us to 16.8 and 76. You tell me if the Selmons wasn't that good. Again, I digress. So in 77, the average points per game were about the same on our defense. Uh 16.9, and we was Big Eight champions that year. And of course, that's the year that our little German field goal kicker kicked field goal against Ohio State at the shoe. That's a different story. It's not for that. This is about defense. So we jump along in the 80s, and we kind of floundered along there. We got beaten by Nebraska, and I mean we was just trying to find ourselves. But in the midst, 1981 rolls around. We get a new defensive coordinator by the name of Gary Gibbs. Yes, the Gary Gibbs who coached Oklahoma after Barry Switzer resigned. And what Gary Gibbs brought us, and Barry Switzer, they brought us Tony Casillas, Kevin Murphy, Darrell Reed, Jeff Tupper, Brian Bosworth, Paul Miliazzo, David Vickers, Sonny Brown, Tony Rayburn, Ricky Dixon. And once them players started gelling, it was Katie bar the door. And there were several times during that 80s, especially the Bosworth era, that we were either ranked number 1 or number 2 on defense. Now, I know a lot of you guys around my age loved Brian Bosworth. I did too. I was a big time Brian Bosworth fan. But I feel that the 2 linebackers that didn't get their just due flowers, and they was every bit as good as Brian, was Paul Miliazzo and Dante Jones. Them guys were beasts. For example, in that 85 Nebraska game, go back and watch it on YouTube, and Brian is in that. His name is mentioned several times in that game. However, go look how many times Dante Jones and Paul Miliazzo's name is mentioned. Quite a bunch. Quite a bunch. And we had one of the best defensive secondaries in the 80s. It seemed like in that Nebraska game or Texas or any of our big games in that 84-85 season, we had a clutch player by the name of Sonny Brown, and it seemed like he always had an interception or 2 in those big games that got the momentum back in OU's favor, and we won the game. Very God, he was. Yeah, you guys my age don't have to be told how good Sonny was. I mean, that he'd rip your doggone head off if you let him. Him and David Vickers and Tony Rayburn and Ricky Dixon, for that matter. Like I said, we had one of the best in that 84-85 season. We had probably one of, if not the best defensive secondary in all of college football. And if y'all remember in that 85 game, there was not one stinking penalty thrown in that game. And also, I'm going to back up. There's a little bit of information I forgot to tell you about the defense. It was either 73 or 74. There again, Marjorie she'll tell me that Nebraska, with that Selmon defense and Elrod, they never snapped the ball in Oklahoma territory. Never. And I think in that 85 game, Nebraska may have crossed the 50 once or twice, but it wasn't a lot in that game. And hell, that defense shut out Nebraska the whole game. And how Nebraska got their 7 points was in the final seconds of the game. Eric Mitchell was already in as quarterback for Jamel Holloway, and we fumble, and Nebraska runs it back for a touchdown in the final seconds. That's how Nebraska got their 7 points in that game. Had it not been for that, we would have shut out Nebraska. Nebraska wasn't doing squat against us. And what was amazing about that defense also was in all those games, they would double team Casillas, and then Bosworth was in the backfield. And then they would go in to double team Bosworth. Tony Casillas was in the backfield, along with Kevin Murphy and Darrell Reed. Which, in my opinion, if you ever want to see how defensive ends should play the game, go back. You can't watch the Selmons, but go back and watch Kevin Murphy and Darrell Reed play defensive ends. That's how that's played. Now, y'all can sit there and say that's different time, different era. I don't care. Defensive end is defensive end. And I always thought there wasn't a better duo in the 80s than Reed and Murphy. And that's what Barry Switzer was known for. Was I mean, yeah, we were flash and dash on offense with that wishbone offense. But our defense was our claim to fame. And it seemed like Barry always got the good quality players and also some unknowns. I'll give you an example. George Cumby. He didn't play 5A school at any 5A school. He played in a little town outside of Tyler, Texas. And it just so happened one of the coaches had tape on him. Now that recruitment was funny. I'll put it in a nutshell. Barry lands at Tyler Airport. Uh, George Cumby is there. George, he told Coach Switzer, he said, I don't want to come play for you because I don't feel like I'm that good. And he got to mentioning off some schools that he was going to try to go to. He said, well, let me tell you something, George. You can go to them schools. I don't mind. But when y'all play Oklahoma, we're going to beat you. So Cumby, uh, he signed the papers. We recruited. What a linebacker he was. My God. Uh, I've always said this, that Rod Choate and George Cumby, if they played in today's football at their respective positions, which was linebacker, they would go to jail for how hard they hit. Yes, sir. Now I'm leaving out a couple of players from that 70s that I need to touch on. Darrell Hunt, who was a linebacker, best linebacker to ever play at OU that never got All-American. He was, good God Almighty, he was great. Great linebacker, hard hitter, fast. We I always hear sideline to sideline. He could go east, west, north, south. He was he was damn good. And one of my favorite nose guards post Dewey Selmon was Reggie Kinlaw. He was undersized, wasn't supposed to be a nose guard, but was a hell of a nose guard for Oklahoma. Went on to the Oakland Raiders and won 2 Super Bowls with them, one being with Oakland and then when they moved to LA. So there you go, Mars. I hope I did this justice. And like I said, anytime y'all want something, if y'all want a video that you want me to do, you hop down in them comments and tell me. You request, I deliver. I will do my best to do a video for you. So as y'all can tell, I've got a video up in the let's see, as you're looking at it, it'll be your top left, top right, and at the bottom. I'm starting to do stuff. We're trying to get more views on the channel, trying to promote it. And guys, we're at 330 subs. I've been in a holding pattern for the past couple of days, but that don't bother me. That don't bother me at all. Y'all are giving me a chance to relive some of my fond memories of me being a Sooner. And the subs is just the subscribers. That's just a small portion of it. Uh, I'm not out here clickbaiting. Whatever you see on a title, it's what I'm. And believe me, for all of you who have subscribed, thank y'all so much. I can't appreciate y'all enough. I can't say thank y'all enough. I didn't think the channel was going to do this good starting out. So, guys, it I appreciate every stinking one of you. I don't say that as stinking. Y'all know what I mean. I appreciate the hell out of all of y'all. Y'all are wonderful people. I got some good people who comments in the comment section, and as y'all can tell, whenever y'all comment, I'm always there. Well, we're going to get out of here. Y'all have yourself a great day. This is the legend. We'll see you on the backside. Boomer Sooner.